Abigail Adams. Who was Abigail Adams? In the mid-1700s, most women in North America spent their lives caring for their husbands, children, and home. Abigail Adams lived a different sort of life. She ran a farm and raised her children, mostly by herself. She also helped shape the United States' first years as a new country. Early years. Abigail was born on November 11, 1744, in Massachusetts. At the time, Massachusetts was one of the 13 American colonies which belonged to Great Britain. Abigail did not go to school. Most girls were not allowed to at the time. Instead, Abigail's mother, Elizabeth, taught her to read and write. At home, Abigail was a smart girl who loved to read. She learned about the world by reading her father's many books. Abigail married John Adams on October 25, 1764. They lived on a small farm that had been in John's family for many years. John worked as a lawyer, and Abigail managed the farm and the money. In 1768, they moved to Boston so John's law businesses could do better. John was often away from home because of his work. War with Great Britain. So after Abigail and John were married, Great Britain began to treat the colonies unfairly. People had to pay many high taxes. Many people in the colonies, including Abigail and John, wanted to break away from Great Britain. They wanted the colonies to become their own country. In 1774, John was elected to represent Massachusetts at the First Continental Congress. The Congress talked about how the colonies could become an independent country. Abigail stayed home while John was away. She ran the farm and taught the children. A woman running a business was not common in those days. She hired people and bought land in John's name. Women could not buy land on their own. While John was away, he and Abigail wrote many letters to each other. He often asked for her advice on politics as well as other subjects. In 1775, the colonies began to fight a war to become independent from Great Britain. During the war, Abigail made meals for soldiers and cared for soldiers who had been hurt. John was elected to represent Massachusetts at the Second Continental Congress. John and Abigail continued to write letters to each other. Abigail gave John advice. Her letters helped tell the Congress how people in the country thought and felt. The leaders listened to what she had to say. In 1775, the Congress declared the colonies independence from Britain, but the war would not end in 1801. After the war, the colonies won the war and finally became an independent country. George Washington was elected the first president of the United States in 1789, and John became the first vice president. John and Abigail moved to Philadelphia, which was the capital at the time. Abigail did not like the capital and soon moved back to the farm. Abigail and John continued to send letters. John became president in 1797 as the First Lady. Abigail gave her husband advice on many things. She spoke out against slavery. She also argued for equal rights for women. Some people in the government did not like that John listened so much to Abigail's advice. They sometimes called her Mrs. President. Abigail never stopped talking about what she believed. Later years, Abigail was happy when John's 4 years as the president were over. She wanted to go back to their farm and live a quiet life. Abigail was sick during many of her later years. She died at home on October 28, 1818. Abigail Adams was a smart, strong woman whose ideas were important to the birth of the United States. She showed the world that a First Lady can speak up and work for important causes. Her amazing life and work are still remembered today.